You're listening to Pickleball Business Lab, the podcast where pickleball meets profit. Each week, your hosts, Colin and JR, dive deep into the business behind the fastest growing sport in America. From pro team owners and league execs to brand builders, sponsors, and startup founders, we're talking to the people shaping the future of the game. This isn't just about how you play, it's about how you build, grow, and win in the business of pickleball. Now let's head into the lab.
Welcome back to the Pickleball Business Lab, the show where we break down the marketing, sponsorships, personal branding hacks behind the fastest growing sport in the world. I'm your host, Colin Hawes.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I've been given more thought since our last episode of my personal brand. So I think what we've got lined up today is a playbook of gold.
Fantastic. Let's get into this. Have you ever wondered how top pros like Tyson McGuffin or Leigh went from being these backyard drills to brand deals? In this episode, what you're going to learn about is how to define your unique athlete identity. We want to help you craft your visual and verbal branding as well, because that's going to play a big part in this. And then from there, once you've done your visual and you've done your verbal branding, how you're going to be your authentic self and how you're going to, project that out. Create a content strategy that's going to help you attract followers. Ultimately, while you are an athlete, you are a human. How can we further humanize your brand with things like day in the life vlogs, which really draws in a large audience. And then the last part is you want to network with partners and sponsors. So, from there, you want to analyze your data. You want to double down on what's working, maybe cut out what's not working. Don't spend your time. You don't have much time, right? Depending on what level of a pickleball player you are. And even if you're an amateur, if you're spending a lot of time trying to really pull this together, it's going to take a lot of time. So if you have friends or family that are good with a camera, they're good at video, pictures. And then last thing is ultimately what you're probably hoping to do no matter what is unlock the monetization pathways, whether it's through digital products, through gated training programs that you've created. I think there's a couple athletes out there right now that are starting to do that. And then affiliate deals, coaching, and obviously there's much more.
Yeah. It's just like you said a little bit ago as we entered this, there's a ton of value here. So, our goal is by the end is for you as the athlete to have more of an action plan that you can kick off ASAP, maybe even this week.
Exactly.
So we're looking forward to it.
Exactly.
Okay. So you want me to kick off section 1 there? We want to talk about the foundation of the brand, right? When Colin introduced point 1, we called it defining your unique athlete identity. So the first thing to do is to know thyself. Your brand foundation is really, it's your North Star, right? It's your compass. So if you skip this, it's important to consider that everything else will probably feel like you're just kind of shouting out to the void, right?
Yep.
So the first thing we want to accomplish here with defining the athlete identity that's unique is do a self-audit exercise. It shouldn't take too long, and you can write these down if you want to, if you've got a pen and paper handy. Great. We like to think of listing 3 core strengths. So, some examples might be maybe you're a clinic style teacher, maybe you're a high energy hype machine, you might be a tactical match strategist. Okay, so think about 3 core strengths that you identify within yourself, and then pick 2 personal values as well. Something like, you're gritty, you're fun, you value the community, you look to grow, whatever really resonates with you, all right? So an example for one might be, I'm a detail-driven clinician who values community first, right? Another way you could go is, I'm a high-energy hype machine that loves having fun. So these couple quick examples that you could come up with after you run your self-audit exercise. Colin, you have any thoughts about just that first quick bullet point there?
Yeah, so I actually did this exercise last week for myself, and it turns out my hidden strength is making stats sound fun. And it's funny because as you were reading these things off, one of the things that I know about myself, and I probably don't ever call it out, is I love to give information to people. I love to see people grow, and as the ocean rises, all boats rise, right? So And I'll give an example right now. JR, you're well aware of this. As I've mentioned multiple times now in these last 2 episodes, I was laid off back in March, and I wrote a very raw post on LinkedIn about this. So if anybody's familiar with LinkedIn, if you're a CEO or something, you're probably already going to know this. LinkedIn is obviously all business related for the most part. And those people that do wind up showing more emotion and the rawness of humanizing the brand, if you will, right? So you're looking at 1 to 5,000 impressions is considered good for a so-called non-influencer, and then a company page is around 10,000 impressions. So I wrote this on Tuesday night. I posted it late Tuesday evening, probably around 10 p.m., which is a bad time to post on LinkedIn to begin with. Usually it's like that 7 a.m., 7:30 in the morning type thing when people are getting ready and checking their phones from the business world. I really didn't have any real goal with it other than just be real with what I've been going through and trying to find a job. So you take some of this and maybe find a way to put this into practice for yourself. I can think of right now of one pro athlete that had done this a little bit not that long ago. And then they kind of quit after their event had happened and those videos stopped coming, which I wish I would have seen them continue to do this. But anyway, I posted this thing, keeping in mind that when I posted on LinkedIn, I have gotten a max, I think, of like 222 impressions. So it's nothing like Instagram. It's nothing like, any of the other social networks that are out there. Most of my things are like 2 impressions, 5 impressions, because nobody's engaging. Well, this one, very raw. And that was the beginning of it. But then me being who I am and my personal brand, I then went into, hey, like if I'm struggling with this, there's probably other people that are struggling with this as well. So, how can you set yourself apart from others in the world of a digital black and white resume that you probably have an HR person who's spending, they're glancing at your resume 30 seconds and they're, eating some food at their desk and they're drinking something because they're overworked themselves, right? So, I posted this thing. When I checked it last night, I was at like 6,600 impressions. So 6,600 impressions. That was a lot. I was blown away by that number. As of right now, as we're recording, I'm coming up on 56,000 impressions.
Wow.
So I found something that obviously had resonated with my audience. So when you're creating content, do that, right? Resonate with your audience. And going back to what I said, my hidden strength is stats and making stats sound fun. For me, I get excited about that because like it tells me, hey, what I am doing is actually working.
Yep.
There's the reshares, there's the likes, all that stuff.
Great tip. Love that story. And you'd mentioned there, what kind of leads us into our second point here is who's your audience, right? That's what you want to do next is you want to define the audience, figure out who you're talking to. So, if you're in the athlete's shoes there, you're talking to weekend warriors, you're talking to maybe rec league players, aspiring professionals, maybe younger junior athletes. The clearer you get, the better you can tailor your messaging, your visuals, and the platforms you choose to use. So you want to define your audience next. And then the third point under that defining is what's your positioning statement? You're going to want to craft kind of a quick one-sentence statement in a format that looks sort of something like this. You want to say, I help who achieve what by what method, okay? So just an example, again, you're in the athlete's shoes. So I help backyard players master their serve with confidence building muscle memory drills. That's an easy way for you to position yourself and, kind of define who it is that you're talking to. At the same time, you're defining your personal brand. So that statement becomes the elevator pitch for what you do on the digital court.
Yeah.
So with wrapping up number one there, I'm going to kind of send it back to Colin here. He's going to handle our second point for us.
Yeah. So number 2 here is visual and verbal identity, right? So this next up, what you're doing is you're looking at your look and you're looking at your voice. The goal here is to be consistent. Consistency here is going to help you build instant recognition. If I say something like golden arches, right away you think McDonald's, right? If you think of a swoosh check mark, you think Nike. So kind of be thinking along those lines, right? So social handle and your tagline, you want to pick something that's short and searchable, and ideally you want it to be the same across all platforms. That's something we were able to do with Pickleball Business Lab, minus I think X, because X had a character limit. So Pickleball Business Lab was too long, but everything else you can find us with that at handle, right? Um, from there, create a 4 to 6 word tagline that sums up your brand vibe, right? So an example here.
It probably should be, though.
So serve savvy Colin, right? My tagline is serve smarter, play better.
Yeah.
If I say Tui Nation, everybody in the pickleball world knows like who that is. So JR, I'll turn this back over to you to talk through some of these next couple points under number 2.
Yep, no problem. So, like Colin mentioned, you've got your social handle and your tagline as kind of the first parts of that visual and verbal identity. Next, give a quick consideration to logo and color palette. It sounds weird, but we had mentioned kind of colors and what they mean in our initial episode, how colors resonate with people. So you can use a quick free tool like Canva to just mock up a simple logo. Consider 1 or 2 accent colors. Think of something like a bold neon green, deep navy blue that kind of go together and accent work with each other for overlays and text. Actually, think about whenever you mention the bold neon green, what you did with the Pickleball Business Lab logo. I love it. It's got that dark and then it pops with the green pickleball in it. So after that, you want to definitely consider the voice and the tone that you use. So again, decide, are you kind of a hyped up person, a hype coach? Are you energetic, high tempo? Or are you more of a kind of a technical clinician type? Maybe that makes you more detail driven, calm. Or are you more of a friendly mentor, so to speak, meaning you come off as more laid back and approachable? You're going to want to define the voice you use and the tone of your personality and your brand. My tip here would be to record yourself and then listen. If you cringe, just do a double take. It's really not that hard to delete a recording.
It is.
Hey, squad, ready to crush your backhand? Okay. Yeah, maybe that resonates with you. Maybe it doesn't. Or another example that you could come up with is today, let's break down the footwork behind an unreturnable drive. I think the idea is to start to wing it, and if you don't like it, just re-record and tweak it as you go. Okay?
That makes a lot of sense to me. And, with that, I think we're ready to jump into number 3, right? So we're going to now talk content strategy and production.
So let's talk where and what you post, right? So the where is really kind of your platform of choice. Where do you decide you're going to kind of spend your time and post? Maybe start with 2. Well, one example might be Instagram Reels for kind of quick drills. Then you can do YouTube for deep dive tutorials. Consider TikTok. The important thing to remember here is to not spread yourself too thin. In the marketing world, we tell people who are sort of just getting started with posting and sharing and deciding what platform they're going to use to start with one and really feel good and comfortable on it before jumping in. But hey, you might already be savvy, so launching into 2 might be the right fit for you, but it's important to remember not to just spread yourself out too thin.
Yeah. And, with that said, one of the things that you can do is you can record one long video that the goal is to get it onto YouTube. And then there's tools out there that can help you to take that content and break it down into smaller social clips that then you can use for TikTok. That's where you'll have to spend some time, is making sure that the content you create fits the network that you're recording on. So if you record a full video that you plan to put onto YouTube and the goal is to bring all traffic to your YouTube channel, then you might then upload to Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok, with the goal of driving traffic back over to YouTube to watch the video, check the links in your descriptions and things like that. The goal is to remember it's better to dominate 2 platforms than to be spread across 5, especially when you're doing that by yourself. And if you're a pro player, I think we might have said this in the last episode, but you're playing a tournament, you're coming home, you're flying in late, you're getting home late, you're literally waking up, and then you might have that one day at home before you're back out again, either flying or driving to the next tour stop, right? Because that's spread out just like the PGA would be over a multitude of days. So best to really drill down into two platforms, make sure they're working for you, make sure that's where your audience is as well. So here, define those three core themes. So one, is it technique tutorials that you're working on? Is it the match highlight and analysis? Is it gear reviews and unboxings? Or is it the athlete lifestyle and the behind the scenes? I think for the athlete, it's always going to be that athlete style and behind the scenes with a little touch of the technique tutorials or, you know, how I set up my paddle, right? I know there was a video recently done not that long ago by Ben Johns where he talked about how he weights his paddle and the way he does it all, and people just like were instant like, oh, I gotta do my paddle like he does, That's for his play style. For others, they might want more control or things like that. And I think there's a lot of great podcasts out there today that's what they do. They focus on the technique tutorials. They do talk about the match highlights and the analysis and then the gear reviews and the unboxing. I can literally go through on those first three items and I can name a podcast or a YouTube channel or YouTube/podcast that is doing exactly this. They really niche down to this is my category and they're doing very well. And as a result, they're monetizing their content strategy / business. So the goal here would be try to do your best to schedule one day to shoot per week. So do that day in the life, shoot that day, right? One day. Film those 10 short drills, that one larger short tutorial, and then use things like editing apps like InShot or CapCut. Obviously, we're very familiar with CapCut, but use that to like knock out your editing blocks and do that like in the next day. That way you're not like going crazy trying to like put together a system. So film one day, edit the second day, or have somebody film for you. And then if they have editing chops, let them do the editing for you. And then, maybe buy them pizza or beer or whatever it is that they like, just to show your appreciation.
Batch filming is kind of the productivity life hack, right, for creators.
Yeah, and it kind of now goes into point number 4, right? As we talk about the pro level, who they're going to be the most busy when it comes to this, is that day in the life YouTube content. So before we really dive into the engagement tactics, let's talk about the powerful YouTube format that humanizes your brand, right? The day in the life vlog. So like I said before, people are attracted to the day in the life vlog because they think they know the athlete. Now you create that content, right? I mentioned last week, we talked about this whole humanizing your brand. We talked about Tyson McGuffin. I don't know that we necessarily brought it up. Maybe we did, but Making the McGuffins is on Pickleball TV. It's on YouTube. That right there is what got Tyson to continue. And I even was messaging JR. We ran through all of his sponsorships and he just landed another one with Star-Kissed Tuna, right? Pumping that content out. So that is one. It's viewers love to see what you do off the court. So they see you on the court, they see how you play. And there's certain athletes that I don't really care for their on-court antics, or when they do lose and they throw a fit, the camera pans to them and shows them throwing a fit, and I'm just like, man, how immature. But if they would spend time to record that day in the life vlog, I'm hoping that they're going to be their natural, authentic self. And it's going to make me see them a little differently. Go, you know what? Maybe they're like that because they are super competitive, or whatever it is. But show your training routine, show your grocery runs, the things you eat, how you prep your gear. Mentioned just recently about Ben Johns, right? It's that authentic peek behind the curtain into who you are as an athlete, and not just as an athlete, but as an actual human being, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of made this point already, but I'll just double click on it. People connect with real life, right? So it's important to, just not underestimate kind of the power of recording yourself at the grocery store. It sounds super boring, but people go to the grocery store. Like, you're not the only one that goes to the grocery store. So that footage helps and make that connection.
So can you give us a couple shot list examples of like for that athlete, like what they could potentially do to do that real life connection?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you go beyond like the grocery store trip, right? Just think of like break it down into a couple different ideas. Like, think about your morning routine. you're making coffee, you're checking emails, you're kind of getting dressed for the day, you're putting your sneakers on to go get a run in before your day starts, brushing your teeth. Think of another kind of time of day, maybe like during a training session, right? So you've got the follow cam footage that's on court. So your warm up drills, kind of really intense sort of rally sequences, maybe coach feedback when you're doing some one-on-one time with a coach. Another, let's think, maybe another might be gym time, right? Something that's just a little more laid back, where you've got like workout montage footage, mobility drills, strength training, recovery stretches, those kinds of things. And then, I guess back to like the grocery store stuff, that just your daily errands, right? Grabbing lunch, setting shoes by the door at home. Those are some probably really easy kind of examples of, shot lists that you could come up with to include to humanize.
Yeah, and before you jump to the next point, JR mentioned a montage of the workout. Think of that as like your B-roll footage. So you might say, hey, I'm here at, I'll give the example right now. If you want to follow a YouTube vlogger that has taken YouTube and turned it into multiple businesses, Christian Guzman, he owns 3D Energy. He owns Alpha Elite, the gym, which he calls it the Disneyland of fitness. He has the Alpha Elite brand of clothing as well. His wife has a podcast, and some of his friends have podcasts, but he doesn't have one. He has taken YouTube and turned it into multiple businesses because of originally starting just with doing YouTube. So go watch some of his workout footage and see that so-called montage B-rolls. If it was me, I'm at Alpha Elite Gym. I've been wanting to come here for 7 years now. I'm here. And then you're going to see all these little clips and this music in the background, right? Of me doing lat pull downs and bent over barbell rows and crunches and speed training. You're going to see all that crunch together. And it kind of gives that more energized aspect to that day in the life vlog that might be kind of slow. And it's a lot of recording. You're editing it down to make it something that's impactful in that probably 20-25 minute time frame. I know Ben Johns did one that I kind of cringed about, honestly, because it was like what I order for boba tea, and it was him ordering his boba tea and his friends ordering boba tea or whatever it was. And then, oh, this tastes really good. I'm like, it's a step towards getting to that day in the life, but that should be a little piece, and there should be a full-blown video that goes along with that. Follow what Tyson has done, and you'll go a lot further. So with that, I'm gonna let you jump back over with the next point of narration and voiceovers.
Yeah. So, consider overlaying each scene as part of your video with short kind of voiceover tips, because you want to add value. It's not just like things to look at. So, imagine you're doing some footage of those stretches like we talked about. You're going to add a voiceover, maybe says something effective. I always start with dynamic stretches to protect my shoulder, right? So, just giving people tips like, hey, we're thinking about our body here and not just going out and running around like crazy people. And then, closer to the end of the video, you want to, kind of a call to action, right? How do you engage with people at the end? So you're going to want to end with a prompt. So something that might sound like is, what part of my routine surprised you the most? Drop a comment below, and then make sure to point, your audience to, the next drill video or maybe a coaching link, something like that.
Yeah, and before we go into our next section here, one of the things that with Instagram has continually sat there and evolved their algorithm, right? So, what JR just said, that's going to fit really well for YouTube, but for something like Instagram, there's a couple different things here that you want to consider. Is you might tease out, so use the video or the image. Probably video is better, obviously, than an image now, but use that to be the teaser. And then you're going to say, here's the 5 shots, look, see below. And they're going to expand that comment. They're going to read that comment. And that is carrying more weight today, as well as, hey, DM me the word pickleball, right? And I'll send you my top 5 branding techniques to really grow your brand. And then you send that link via DM. And there's software out there, tools out there, social tools that can automate that for you so that you don't have to be there or pay somebody to continually hit that send button. So this is going to allow you to fully automate the process, they feel like they're getting value from you as well, right? And you are giving them value because you spent a lot of time on the front end to get that created for them. That's some of the things to think about in the CTA and what that looks like, because it should be and will be different from place to place. If it looks the same, like it's copy and pasted, it makes you look like you're really not spending as much time caring for your audience on that network. So we'll jump over to storytelling and engagement. So, JR, do you want to kick us off with this one?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, great content is nothing without engagement. You kind of just made the point, where's the audience fit into this whole thing, right? Like we're not out there just screaming into the void. We want to have engagement. We want to build community, right? So we think of a couple of things here as far as, you know, telling a story and building out a story, right? You want to think of a hook. So, something you might come up with is struggling with your dink, having trouble with your serve. This is really going to get people kind of going, oh man, maybe I am. I have been. Let me continue with this video here.
And with your dink, that's going to be in that first 5 to 10 second range, right, of the video
Sure.
before you get into the next part of it.
Yep. Then comes the value add part of the video. And to your point, that's going to be just a few seconds in to maybe up to a minute. It sounds something like, here's a 2-step drill that kind of locks it in. So people now know, oh, okay, he's given me 2 steps to kind of figure it out, right? And then the third part is that call to action that comes at the end. And again, you're really only right around a minute at this point. Your call to action might sound like, save this, tag your partner, or DM me your questions. In and out. It's a piece of cake.
Save this, tag your partner, DM me with your questions. That's exactly what I was just pointing at in the previous section, right? That is going to get you through the Instagram algorithm to help you. So, with that, I want to jump into what we would consider a pro tip, right? So use countdown stickers in your stories to build that hype before dropping your hook. The goal here is community building tactics. Think of things like hosting a weekly live Q&A, run hashtag challenge. For example, 30-day serve challenge, and then repost follower submissions to your story. So now you're taking user-generated content, you're sharing their content, and they're seeing, hey, Ben Johns just shared my content. It's so simple. It takes a second. It's going to speak volumes to them when they've been following you for so long. They buy the same paddle that you buy. They wear the same clothes that you are promoting because, kind of makes them feel like, oh, I'm this pro level player. And they're not, right? But they have this association, this connection. Just repost follower submissions and get that user generated content. It's going to help spread and viralize, if you will, what you're doing with your so-called 30-day serve challenge. And then the next thing here is authenticity practices. So share your wins and your fails. So a quick, today I face planted in mid-match, right? Or, I dropped my paddle in the no volley zone, the kitchen, right? So we know that's a fault. So, if you say something like, today I face planted mid-match, here's what it taught me. That builds trust faster than your highlight reel. Going back to what I just said at the very beginning of this about the LinkedIn post. I was raw. I humanized and showed. I took away the professional side of what LinkedIn is. So I'm kind of, in this instance, I'm going away from what I said earlier about your content to the platform, right? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were vulnerable in that instance, and that made you relatable.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got the numbers to show it.
Yep.
So our point here is to not be afraid to kind of show your human side.
Yep. So from there, we're going to now jump into the next part. And for me, that post is hopefully what's going to get me to this next thing that we're talking to you about, right? Networks and partnerships. So let's turn that engaged audience into real world collaboration, because you might see a name, right, that had engaged with you, but you don't know who they are. And then you come to find out that they're the owner of X business. There's some certain industries that I have a heart for, and I've heard multiple stories where it's service-based businesses where they did a service at someone's home, and then they come to find out that they own 12 different franchises, and now they need that same service done from a commercial side of the business when they did a residential. So don't, always be thinking about your audience and don't ever minimize your audience, because you don't know who they are, what they do, or what connections they can potentially bring you into that networking and partnership side of things. So now I'll give two subcategories here under this is local clinics and co-branding. So pitch your home club, let the co-host a beginner's clinic, your facility, my audience, split ticket revenue, offer a free demo to the members. Next would be collaborations and giveaways, right? So partner with a local coffee shop. So tag to win giveaway, custom merch, free lattes, tag the sponsor, and then that's going to help boost reach. And then something I'm thinking about now, you are a pickleball player, you're sponsored by Pickleball Paddle Company, and you are at some event, take a picture on your story, show the paddle brand new, and say, hey, first person to find it, come see me and we'll get a picture together and you just won this $300 paddle, right? So that's going to, that's going to do what I would call in-person event activation. It's going to be seen on social as well. So there's a multitude of what I would call networking and partnerships and user-generated content all being combined into these categories.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
So I think here we also have one more under this category here, sponsorship one pagers. So what you would do here is you would create a sleek PDF highlighting your metrics, right? So followers, the engagement rate. So engagement rate is something where your followers are engaging with your content. Obviously, if you're responding back to your followers, that's going to help increase the engagement rate. It's going to keep that visibly seen within something like Instagram, right? And then obviously your demographics. Think about your past collaborations and then package options. If someone was to sponsor you, social posts, clinics, branded content, be able to offer that to them. With that, we will now jump into analytics and then the iterations.
Yeah, data, the fun stuff, right?
That's right.
So when you talk about looking at the data and doing what works, it's important to remember that if you're not measuring anything, you're just guessing, right? You kind of have no direction. So we think of tracking some key metrics to start. Easy ones to track are views and reach, saves and shares, comments and DMs, and then click-throughs to links, signups, those calls to action that we talked about. It's probably best to think about this monthly, do a retrospective. At the end of each month, review your top 3 posts and ask yourself, what common thread do they share? Double down on that format for the next month. If you can point out something that's common amongst those 3 posts that, perform the best for you, why not keep doing what's working?
Yep. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins, right? Because, that's that little win in your sail and it helps to keep you motivated.
That's right. Exactly. So analytics was a pretty easy one to go over. It's really just tracking a couple of different things and then doing what works, right? So with that said, I'm going to kick it back over to Colin to talk a little bit about money here. Is that okay with you?
It works for me. I always love talking about money. So you've identified the visual, the verbal identity, right? You figured out what your colors are, your voice, and your tone. You developed a content strategy. You figured out how you're going to do your production, that day in the life YouTube content that's going to help you. And like I said, you want to take that piece of content, that big piece, and then atomize it out into different smaller sub pieces. So you got your storytelling down, you're being authentic. And as a result, you start to have these networking and these partnerships that start to exist. And then now you're able to really have something to measure and figure out. So now comes the money. So it's time to monetize your brand. So for here, these are 3 starter ideas that could help you get to that point. Number 1, digital products. Think ebooks, digital ebooks, right? So I think there's one of the most well-known ones is Brioni's. Think of like the drill ebooks. Think of checklist bundles, mini courses that can be delivered via tools like Teachable or Gumroad. You can easily go on there, create a quick account, and start to put that out there. The next one, and one of the most simple ones to do, is affiliate links. I right now have a couple that I've signed up for and I have a link for. So partner with gear brands you love, show that paddle in action, create a link in your bio. And then when someone goes and they click and then they go through the purchase process, you're going to get some sort of kick. It's usually a single percentage, but if you're doing that, make sure you disclose the hashtag ad in there. That helps from an FCC ruling around social when you're promoting a brand for dollars, right? The last thing, and there's multiple people out there doing this, whether it's through like a digital virtual video library or it's in-person events and meetups, is the paid coaching side of things, right? Like I said, we talked about the fact that Tyson has built a very robust throughout the years style coaching program at different cities. So offer those one-on-one sessions or small group packages. And then, something else to consider is, hey, this is for a duper score of 3.5 and higher or 4.0 and higher, and then, from there, you probably could command a little bit more money, but sample pricing might be something like $50 per session. Obviously, that's for somebody who's probably more local to you, and you might pay them that $200 a month for weekly group clinics. As you're really getting more up there, making a name for yourself, and you have a higher duper score that justifies, hey, they know what they're talking about, you might justify more money.
Yeah. And it's probably just important to highlight here that whether you're doing it for fun or you're trying to do it for the money, small commission checks add up as your audience grows, right? So you're in tournament play, just rec play, any of these things, every little bit helps, right? So you take these kind of quick little steps here to just maybe put a little bit of money in your pocket for your time. With that said, you kind of did a quick recap there. I'm going to go through a little recap of what we did here today. We've got the foundation. We talked about know thyself, right? Knowing who you are and who you serve. The second point was find your identity. You want to look and sound consistent. It's important. The third point was content. You want to plan and produce strategically, not just shout into the wind, right?
Yep.
You want to do day in the life. Show people who you are. You want to humanize your brand so it's easier for people to connect with you. You want to make sure to engage, right? You want to give people a hook, give them value, and then give them a way to follow back up, that call to action. You want to think about partnerships. Maybe they look like clinics, collaborations, sponsorships. Okay. The seventh point was reviewing the analytics. You want to measure, find out what's working, and then pivot if you need to. If not, you're doing great. And then the eighth part related to monetization, consider e-products, affiliate links, becoming a coach. So, Colin, what do we got next?
Yeah, so if you found some value in this or you've started to build your positioning statement, Pickleball Business Lab on Instagram, tag us. We'll share some of our favorites if you put that out there. And then obviously, if you found value today, hit the subscribe button, leave us a review, DM us on the topic you want us to talk about next. Any reviews that we can get is really going to help us to bring this new podcast to light for others and hopefully get us some more subscribers. So we appreciate your time. And with that, JR?
Yeah, just want to say thanks for tuning into the Pickleball Business Lab. I'm JR, and on behalf of my boy Colin, keep building, keep branding, and we'll catch you the next time.
See you guys.